right, welcome to Culture Shift. And I'm the host, Duda Penteado, the archivist. I'm here with one another amazing guest, Kirstin DeAngelis. I know you wear many hats in Mana. You're director of operations, curator, also an artist. But before we talk about Mana and Jersey City, that we know Mana in different places, we can talk about Miami and I think in another location as well. Let's talk about your beginning.
Absolutely.
How does art become part of your life?
Thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited. And so my name is Kirstin DeAngelis, and sometimes you can find me under Kristin J. DeAngelis because sometimes that's how I put my art
Awesome.
out there. So I like to clarify that. My beginnings are in a little teeny tiny town in Connecticut. And I can kind of roll it up where I've been an artist since I was really little. But one of the things like my mom would always say, oh, you want to be so badly, this sports enthusiast, like really active and really a high performing I don't even know what to even call it, but I really wanted to play all sorts of sports. But really deep down, I was this artist. This is really what I was good at. And I really needed to focus in on my time and energy on that piece because that really is the core of who I am. And sometimes I kind of shift it one way or another, but that's who I was. So from the time I can tell you, maybe it was about 6 years old, I remember my grandmother from my mother's side bought me this coloring book that was probably, I was 6, so to me it was like 10 feet tall, but maybe it was like 3 feet tall. And it was a coloring book. And every year she'd give me that size coloring book with a whole box of crayons, 56 with a little sharpener in the back. And I would just take the coloring book and just go over to the side and just color till the whole book was finished. And I just was doing that forever. And I would submit to art shows or little art shows that are in my teeny tiny town of Northford, Connecticut, and win the Blue Ribbon Prize. So I have all sorts of photos of the things that I've drawn. I have this photo that I won the Blue Ribbon, and I decided that it was really appropriate for me to have like a kiss design, a kiss mask for sure, but actually with makeup on. So I have I was like Paul Stanley with big star on my eye. And, so it's like, my name is Kirsten Jennifer, so quintessential 70s child. So yeah, with a,
Wow.
kiss makeup on. But this image to me, really is a lot about my entire life of always trying, always submitting, always taking additional steps to get to wherever I wanted to be, like never letting anything stand in the way of doing what I want to do and putting it out there and just going for it. So it was like I was always a really good artist in school, high honors art in high school. And then I'm not gonna lie, I kind of chickened out about the whole art school thing. Like I was like, what am I gonna do? Which is really important for our later conversation. But it was like I really didn't know what I was going to do if I was going to
What
be this
age were you? Let me
artist.
understand.
Mhm.
It's very interesting. The conversation you tell about you is a lot about kind of what happened to me. I
Mhm.
was also very young, and I remember this art teacher called my parents and said, "Look, he did this sculpture in clay," and it's memories that you have,
Sure,
right,
sure,
about
yeah.
what happened to you when you were a kid. And the other memory I have, that's very vivid to me. My mom used to give me crayons, papers to all me and my siblings, and then we used to sit around the table. But my brothers and sisters, they would stay for half an hour and walked out, and I would stay for 2 hours
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
more.
Yes,
So
yeah.
that's when I was finding my passion. So it's so similar, and it made me think about two things: how you realized that you really had this very deep connection to art and a very early age, and the second, how's important your mom, your aunt, your uncle, your dad,
Mhm.
whatever it is,
Yes.
just give you that push,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And then
Absolutely.
that takes to the next thing, to the next thing. Suddenly, from a little girl, now you high school, and then you're winning awards, and you go on and on. And I
Mhm.
think when you're a child, you have this innocent approach, then everything is okay. So it's very important what we're going now with this because when you get a teenager, become an adult, it's like hey, is this is really gonna be a profession? How I'm gonna go about this? I am really good, and you can become critical in many different ways, right? Is this can
Yeah.
be a career? I'm good, all the. So
Yeah, I
tell
mean,
us
it's
what
really,
happened.
my parents were always supportive, and they would, if I stayed for hours and hours and hours drawing, coloring, whatever it was, like they were very, very happy. So they never pushed me to do anything. They were like, "This is what you like. This is what you're good at. Please explore this." At one point, my mom like went and found me some sort of, I'm like going through the memory process of, found some class for me to take like after school, like
Mm,
additional drawing
mm.
lessons. And so anything that I really wanted to pursue in that, she was ready. Both of my parents would drive me to take me wherever, so this is all before like high school. And we're just like, you should, go into high honors art and take, I can't remember if there was like a little test we had to take, or it was just we were nominated. And super supportive. And they said, well, if you want to go to art school, you whatever you have to do, we'll do that. I just didn't have the confidence in myself, because I had a friend his name was Joey Candelara, and he was amazing in art. And I was always like, oh, I'm not as good as Joey. I'm
Mm.
really not. But I would strive to be like, to practice and to do all the things. We were in high honors art together. And I remember he was going to go to Pratt, and I was like, kind of like, I just didn't know, like, what did that mean? You were going to this prestigious art school. Like, where did that
Pratt, New
take
York
it?
City,
Yes,
right?
Pratt,
Yes,
New
yes,
York
yes.
City. And I wasn't really afraid to go anywhere. It was more like, well, I was also used to being like number one, number two, and whatever I was doing from an academic point, or maybe not number one or two, but really, really great at what I was doing. And I really was like, well, everybody's going to be good. And I don't know what that means for me. What am I going to do?
Push you out of your comfort
Yeah, it was
zone.
really like all of these
Wow. Yeah,
things,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
was really mostly like, myself, that I was, well, what job does this get me? Because I don't know what it means to be an artist. And my high school was so small that no one in there I knew was like an artist. So it wasn't like I couldn't get any direction, or I could get any direction, because nobody was there previously doing the things aside from being an art teacher. And I loved my art teacher, Mr. Roberti. Like, he was so great, and he really just kept you going, kept you going. Um, even when you were like, I don't know about this, he's like, no, 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 it has potential. It has potential. Don't think of it in that sort of way. Just
Mm.
keep going with it. And it really stuck with me, though I went to a school where I ended up studying. I went to Providence College, studied all English literature, history, which really helps a lot because you're also learning art. And then I studied marketing, studio art. So I gave myself kind of the classes that I wanted to take, and graduated from there, still not knowing what was I going to do. And it was at a time where there was a lot of graphic design work, which I did that in college. But I didn't love it because I wasn't walking away with like paint in my face, or, like working in clay or working printmaking, and
Mm.
in like by myself and thinking late at night. I was fortunate because the printmaking studio wasn't so far from where I was living. So I'd be like walking home like so late, not thinking about those things. But also, but it was really like I just didn't know what I was going to do because there wasn't any guidelines of that. So it wasn't like anyone said, oh, if you really like to paint and you like this, you could be a scenic. Or if you like X, Y, and Z, like you could go into textiles. There was no one saying all those things.
Mm.
And in college, I wasn't an art major. So again, no one was giving me that exact direction. But definitely like my parents were with however this goes, if you want to go in this direction, that's fine. Like, well, we're here, we love you, we'll support you. So I was very fortunate in that. And I was very happy that my, parents were very encouraging. So when I got
So
out,
just so I
yeah.
understand, going back, so you're in this little town, Connecticut, and you did everything through high school.
Hmm.
You're doing well. You became a big fish in a small pond.
Hmm.
Like I'm the artist, and now you got to make the next step. And
Right,
so,
right.
did you go out of the state? You go to another town?
So
What
after,
do you do with college?
so I stayed there and I was doing some graphic design work for the
So you did
newspaper.
college in your town,
Sorry, in Rhode Island, at
in Rhode
Providence
Island.
College in
Okay,
Rhode Island.
okay, okay.
So So I was there. So I was still taking like studio art classes, very intrigued by that. Remember making some friends outside of my standard group of friends of like artist friends. And then we would go to museums together sometimes. And again, doing this graphic design that I didn't love, but it was an experience. Like I'm all for whatever experience, love it, hate it, it's something that is then in with you to move forward.
Right.
And when I graduated, so technically I graduated a humanities degree, kind of the focus was studio art and marketing. So I went into the marketing side. So I worked for a very, very formal bank, and I was making their materials, like I don't even know if they have them anymore in the banks, like a little like open a savings account, first time home buyer. So you had all these little pamphlets, and I would do the
So you're doing the
ads.
designs.
So I was doing the designs. I say this so loosely because it was a very conservative bank. There was huge guidelines. So it was nothing super creative. Like there was no way I was getting a job as like an ad director anywhere. You know what? Because it was so like kind of in a box of what we were doing. And then I thought I wanted to go into advertising. I had actually done an internship with an advertising agency in Providence when I was there at school. Everybody was great. It was the person who was heading up the agency. He actually graduated from Providence, so he was always looking for interns. They were wonderful, but I got there and I was like, I don't know if this is it. And then I interned in the Children's Museum in Providence, and I was making a whole exhibition, cutting everything by hand. And I was like, I love this. Didn't know I was going to fast forward to what I did how many years later, but I realized I enjoyed working with my hands, not so much the computer aspect of the things in the marketing side or that creative side. And I just kind of went job to job, a little sales, a little marketing job. I moved to Boston. I was in the marketing department. I actually learned how to lay out things. I basically was like an editor of a publication and working in exhibitions and conferences. So there was a little of that. So you're learning like placement of things. So I wasn't doing it. I was directing it, which was, I liked that. And I think every single thing that I learned, whether I liked it or didn't like it, kind of led me to where I am, because I was also working trade shows. So then I was watching how they're building exhibits, building the booths, how the logistics of everything, how everything's timed, how I know you're nodding because now you can see how I am at Mana. But
I find this very interesting. I think you bring in such a powerful point is, when you're dealing with young students, when they come, we're going to talk about the JCUY map. We partnered last year, and it was incredible. But the point I'm trying to make is when you work with the young, I tell them, keep trying, try everything, because trying things and make sure then you understand the things you don't like it, but you need to put your hands on it. But at the same time, you're learning other things, other possibilities. And then you also, by trying things, you learn the things you like it. Right. So it's very interesting. You're telling your story, and if you don't know what happened later, it feels like just a girl bouncing around, trying this, trying that,
100%,
and has no direction. But life sometimes is like that, and you got to lend yourself to a process, right? So I always tell the artistic process or the life process of becoming something, it takes a lot of turns.
Entirely. I was once told in an interview when I'd had a couple jobs within, I'm going to skip a lot, consumer packaged goods, which also influences a lot of what I'm doing, because a lot of what I did was very negotiating and logistic work. Like there was some marketing, there was sales, but the major part was like understanding how operationally something worked and ran, and how to plan for a plan B. Don't lean on it too much, but no, it's there. A lot of different things. But I remember sitting with, it was a vice president of this department, and he said to me, he had asked me, like, where do you see yourself, the standard question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I just looked at him and I just said, I'm not going to lie to you. I have chosen all of these paths. I've just looked for an open door for what it is that I'm interested in. And then once I see the door, like I go for it. like I go for it. And maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. I said, but it's something new. It's an opportunity. And I just walk up to the door and make it work. And he was like, that's not a great answer. And I was like, well, but that's my truth. I said, so I could lie to you and say in 5 years, I see myself as vice president of something, pick something. I was like, but I would be lying to you. And I don't think that that's what you're looking for. Like if you're, I'd rather just be honest, and then that would give me greater opportunity, and then you'd understand me more. Like I'm going to give you everything I have while I'm here. And I did get hired. I did get hired. He did say, again, he was still like, maybe a better answer. And I was like, I spoke my truth. I can't give you more than that. And it worked out really well for me. I did a lot for them. And then it did great deal for me because again, I understand how things work and things run, and it's an international company, so I got so much experience from that.
And that's amazing.
And that actually, that company allowed me to have the pivot point of, we got to a certain, when I was with the company, so consumer packaged goods, so where I was working in fragrances and cosmetics, and they had purchased a brand. And everybody had to re-interview for their position. And I was like, I don't know if it is this isn't what I want to do, because of the fact my husband and I purchased a real estate space, and made it into a gallery in Jersey City. So I was working full time, flying around the country, also running a gallery. And I was like, oh, is this the opportunity I need to then leave on good terms, and pursue what it is that I want to do, because I've already hit the ground running there. And so I parted ways with the company, like very good terms, and just was off and running in my career.
So you open if I'm not mistaken, you open your gallery in the Heights, right?
Correct. Yes, in the Heights. Mm-hmm.
I've been to your space.
You probably it was 300 square feet,
like a very long space,
a long
right?
space.
Yes,
yeah, on Bower Street. So it was 107 Bowers Gallery, and everyone said you should name it your name. And I was like, do you know how hard it is to say, oh, the Kirstin DeAngelis Gallery or the DeAngelis Gallery or whatever? And I was like, nobody knows where things are in the Heights, so I just went with the address, and I was like 107 Bowers, and people will tell me that they remember being at the space. They will tell me all sorts of things, and how much fun they had. So yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people. It was at the time where things downtown, because the Powerhouse District was waning down, and I wasn't there exactly for that, but I had volunteered at a gallery, and then we opened up this space. And I mean, I was just so fortunate. It was really great timing as far as the amount of people that came through that supported it. It led me, I mean, I must have had like 25 shows there. I taught children. I advocated for artists. So everything came out of little things here and there, and it was really tremendous. And I will say, I used to try to work with Manna when I was doing, working my gallery space. I went through saying yes to everything for 18 months. Yes. It didn't matter if you paid me, you didn't pay me. That was the only way that I was getting the experience. So I look back at those photographs, and I honestly is really tired, Kristin.
I mean, I love, no, you say a lot of interesting things. The Powerhouse Art District, Jersey City. I was just talking to the other guest, Amir, about, you never think when you only have those reflections, conversations, you start thinking deeply about a few things. Jersey City was being a powerful underground place to create a place for a lot of creativity and great artists and movements. The Power Art District always has highs and lows. That the 111 building and the Waldo District is all the same area. I was the chair of the Art Certification Board until 9/11, the World Trade Center incident and the turn of the millennium. And that's supposed to become a super neighborhood of art, and it didn't become for
Mm-hmm.
many reasons. But it something always bad creates something good. So what pushed other areas of Jersey City to
Mm-hmm.
activate, and
Yeah.
today you go to the Heights, it's amazing. The Heights always being like an underground thing,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I remember going to a gallery. The Heights today is like completely like amazing and completely different, but was very very underground, and
Mm-hmm.
it gave the opportunity to do different things, right?
Right.
And
Right.
and I think all of that is kind of part of your journey, preparing you. I would love you
100%.
to send us some photos of
Oh,
the
yeah,
gallery
yeah.
and
I
all of that.
definitely
I
you're
know you
definitely
work with
getting me
kids.
as Paul Stanley with my star, and yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
were so many things. There wasn't a single second that didn't leave an imprint on me. Whether it would drive me a little nuts that people come in all the time and like, you know what you should do, and you'd say, you aren't me.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah, yeah,
so how about we, like, oh, perhaps this is an idea or something like that,
yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, sure.
but people really had definitive ideas because the artists had been there for so long.
True,
And so they did understand a lot of
true.
things. And I never not listened. I always took something away from the conversations we had. And you could see like like the artists had been trying for so long to do different things. And you know, was trying to give them any sort of platform that I could. And then whatever age range, so it all of a sudden became like, do you know anybody who do this? Do you know anybody that? Like I created the Art of the Napkin Pitch workshop. Like I did so many things. Brought people together to help them get health insurance, because artists don't have health insurance sometimes if they don't
Yeah.
have a full-time job. And it was just really doing anything and everything. Like I was like, that's interesting. Let me see what I could do about that. And
So you're
18,
already
yeah.
like artist, producer,
Mm-hmm.
curator,
Mm-hmm.
then was already very engaged with the community.
Entirely. And to start a business in Jersey City
Oh yeah. You know,
is a lot too.
you
That
know,
I had never been wanting to be an entrepreneur. So it wasn't like I was like, oh,
yeah.
that I've been prepared my whole life. I was like, okay, let's do this.
Right, right, right. You know, besides talking about what entrepreneurship, I think
Mm.
we're going to talk a little bit more about the training, the manner.
Yes, yes,
We're
yes,
going to
yes.
go into that. The point I want to bring is, it's very interesting. We're just making a reflection here with other guests. We're talking about Wynwood and Miami and all of that. That we know Manna is also
Mhm.
there. But I tell people all over and over again. A lot of people don't know. Art Basel went to Miami because if Art Basel will continue trying to be around New York, it would be just another fair. New York has become the place after 1950s, the real mecca of art, and it's too big. There's always too much going on. So every art fair there is not the superstar. So I think Art Basel was very instrumental to move to Miami and allow the process to take place, and now and it became the thing, right? Today you have Art Basel, you have Art Miami, and you have the design fair, and
Mhm.
you have this whole Wynwood. Then
I just read how many fairs are there. Gosh, and I think it was like 30 satellite fairs that from Art Basel coming, so Art Basel really Basel, Switzerland. So it comes and
yes,
it has a
correct.
branch into Miami, and it's incredible. Like, and again, I think I saw like the cadence of how it's grown, and it's so large. I mean, I don't know those who are in art or are an artist realize how many artists are out there, but I don't know that the average person really understands like how many artists are out there, how they influence everyday products that exist. Someone had to design the iPhone. Someone had to design, a record player, a couch,
Right,
your
right.
your boots. There is art and design in all of
Sure,
that, and I
sure.
just don't know that everyone thinks about it in that sort of way. So I'd like to think that these fairs also lend appreciation to that. I don't know. Because again, I think sometimes I'm like so in the rabbit hole now that it's hard for me to kind of take a look around out and be like, oh, do you understand what's happening?
You know,
So
people sometimes don't think. Then I always tell people it needs the place. It needs to be the perfect place with the perfect time with the perfect people. And it's kind of when all of that's together, then an explosion. But what people often don't think is easy to say Miami or Basel today, Wynwood, is a trajectory of 25 years
correct.
coming,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And the other thing has to do, I think, geography and place. Jersey City is considered a sixth borough on Manhattan. That's our nickname. But we next to New York, and
It's
we're
hard
just
to
too
compete.
close.
Yes,
So
yes,
we
yes.
have to become a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the perfect segue because when I think about the history of Jersey City, um, um, we lost the collection of the museum. Now is at the Assembly Museum at Rutgers University and New Brunswick. A lot of different changes. We have become in the past 10 years the mural city in the state. Then I being fortunate enough to serve in the board for 10 years, founding member, and also design by invitation of Mayor Fulop, the youth program, right? That he was really invested. Those are the special things. But Mana is being in Jersey City for many, many years. And Mana is this incredible hybrid thing between gallery, museums, studios, education, foundation. Oh my God, the wealth in there is amazing. And I just don't know people know enough about what Mana in Jersey City is.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that maybe people know more what Mana is in Miami today than Jersey City.
I think you have a point in saying that because we'll start. So I'll say, so my title is Senior Director of Strategies and Operations, and I do a lot of different things there.
Before you get in, let's just go over how you got to Mana.
Oh, okay,
and then
sure,
we talk about Mana.
Sure.
'Cause now we get into
Yes,
this
sorry.
big thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll compress some of this.
Yeah.
So from the gallery and teaching the students, then I actually was interviewed and awarded a position as curator for the Silverman buildings for 2 different buildings. So
Oh wow, yes.
with there, I curated the Majestic and the Hamilton Square. So both these Silverman buildings in the lobbies. So that becomes like this different opportunity
I
than
remember
in
that.
than in your
I was
gallery.
you. Oh
So
my
yeah,
God, that was
so
you.
like
Oh, wow.
I think I had another 30
Wow.
shows
Yes.
between the two there over 5 years, and it was really like, what is it that I was trying, like, I always thought about what was I trying to say, and then when I realized it was like, let's just show as much art as possible and how many artists are in this area. And because at one point I was having a show in my gallery, having a show at Hamilton Square, and having a show at Majestic. Now, I got paid a little bit for the curation pieces of the Silvermans, and I was very, very, I loved working for them and loved doing it, but it was a lot of work because my own gallery didn't pay me. So it was just running around,
Really
but
just investing. Right?
you're just investing this time, your own education. You always want to invest in yourself. So in that, and realizing it was just like, I'm just going to try to show as much art as possible. And of course that always made it a little bit harder because I do remember doing a show, and I just was talking about it yesterday, that I partnered with it was a little bit of Pro Arts and NJCU with a show. It was a Pro Art show that was at NJCU, and it was about the state of New Jersey. And I did like a third iteration of it, and I had at least 30 artists in the show. So and I'm trying to remember if it was during COVID, right in the beginning. So now trying to get all that art from how many artists, get it hung, and making sure, and we were doing events over Zoom. So that was another learning curve of all the technology and how to make that happen, and how to make sure you're now reaching even more people than just were coming into the openings. But it really, every single thing was, like I said, a learning curve and the next step. So then I ended up I just couldn't balance all of it. Oh, and then I was also working at Art Fair 14C, which is
Wow, you're everywhere.
a whole nother show in itself. But so working with
14C, yeah, wow. Yeah.
working as the person who's overseeing the juried artists, so very one-on-one hand holding. So
Wow.
I think I was hand holding at the gallery, hand holding in these two different locations for curation, and then moving over to Art Fair 14C, and then I finally had to let
Wow.
go of 14C. Oh, and I was teaching here and there around the city, and then so I was at Art Fair 14C, which has ebbs and flows because of when it's happening versus when it's when you're ramping up towards it. Then maybe 6 months later, there's really not as much to do, and I started to think about like what was I really going to do? COVID happened, so I ended up taking like a job that I could work from home that actually paid me. So that was good. Wasn't in the art industry. And but then I had the opportunity to go back to 14C, and I was like, I have to do this. So I left this paying job behind to really like
So
go into
every
Art Fair.
opportunity you had,
Yeah, it was
you're
kind of
back into the
balancing.
art.
Yeah,
the art.
back into the so I
So-
got paid at 14C, but not like I was at that
Right,
corporate
right,
job.
right, of course.
but that's
So how
really,
you go from now, you keep learning and doing all those things, it's very interesting. Apparently you're very organic, intuitive. Now you end up going to Mana. I want to know a little bit
Sure.
about just going to Mana, but I want to know about the future Our Leaders program.
So yeah.
Because that's your baby in Mana, right?
And that's
You
kind of
came-
how it started. I met Kelly McCumsey. I would see him. He was the director of Mana Contemporary, and I would see him at every single Jersey City function. And so whether I was at an award program that I was just, watching, or was it an opening of an exhibition? Was it something that the mayor was talking about, the arts in the city, whatever it was. Or if I had gone to Mana and he said, why do I see you all over the place? And I said, well, I don't know why I see you, because you just told me you live in Brooklyn. Like, I live here, and we were joking about this. Like, so he's like, I really want to talk to you. I really want to understand like what your goals are and what you'd like to do. And so I told him everything that I was working on. And he said, well, why don't you come in? Would you like to work on a project? And I said, sure. Like, now I'm thinking, yeah, I'll do it. You want me to, like, I don't know, paint the white walls? I'll paint the white walls. And, because I was like, because I know how to do that. I know how to spackle the walls and paint them white 15 times, till they're nice and smooth. And he's like, well, we have this program called, and it wasn't called the Future Art Leaders at this point in time. It was called, we were just referencing as like the teen docent program. So there's other programs similar to this out there, but I didn't know any. Maybe they were in New York City. I'm trying to remember. And so like he said, well, I'd like you to kind of run with this program because you've been teaching kids, you've worked with the high schools that in Jersey City. This is where we're looking, kind of what we're looking to do. And I just ran with it. I said, oh, I know exactly who I need to talk to, because I worked with her on another program, because I worked with all the Jersey City art teachers through an art show. And it was just, I had all these contacts. So it was like, it was hard work putting it together. But within the first week that I was there, Kelly just said, he's like, I think I'm going to want to have you working here full time. He's like, is that
Wow.
something that you want? And I was so exhausted from running. And this was this was 2022. So I'm coming up to my 4-year anniversary. And I said, yes. And he's like, are you sure? Because there are a lot of people in the art world that do balance a lot of different things, because that's how they make their living. And I was like, no, I am so exhausted from running from point A to point B. I really want to
That
build
maybe here's the
something.
place I can.
Yeah, and again, I just walk to the door. I walk
Anchor.
to the open door. The door doesn't get
Wow.
any wider than that.
Wow.
Than literally being, so there was people I had to talk to actually even just work on the project. So that was it. Like, and we started doing the paperwork for me to work there full time, because I had already been like kind of vetted through.
You there like 4 years now? 5 years?
Those will be my I'm coming up to the 4-year anniversary in March. So yeah, it was like, and I go back to the conversation of, well, you have to come up with a better answer. And I'm like, did I? Like, it all depends on what you're
Yeah,
doing, how
exactly.
you're tying it all together and packaging it. And I'm glad to have had that conversation because it did make me think about that.
Sure.
So I did answer that much
Sure.
more carefully and thoughtfully than I did than maybe off the cuff. But to me, it's still like you have to keep looking for those opportunities no
Yes.
matter what, no matter where you are. Even if you're happy with your job, you always kind of have to keep your eye out because there could be something that you're ignoring that is like, oh my gosh, I would love to be there, you know? So
Right. Right.
it was just really, I,
But
I mean, time, energy, effort, luck,
you
right
know,
place, right time, all of those things.
I think in your case is very interesting because you needed all this a little bit of expertise
100%.
to become the director, to
Hmm.
become. So I think have your hands in art, creating art, running a gallery, learning the business part of it, even going to fashion and design is all part of your job you do today. And
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
what I want to say that I find amazing is, um, I built the youth program. I was privileged, and the mayor knew me, and Neil was big in education and gave me the opportunity to design the program the way I
Hmm.
wanted. So after working in many different projects, New York, Aero Brazil, places, I was given the chance to design something. Um, and that's amazing because you can put all your ideas out
Hmm.
there. And um, when I got in touch with your program, the Future Our Leaders, I was like, this is the other program than this generation needs or every generation needs to learn. Not just see my program, I teach them how to work the portfolio, how to be a great communicator,
Hmm.
how to make original artwork, and how to create a message, all of that. So I go into a more master program, deep
Hmm.
mentorship, not a high school teacher, right? Teach you technique. We're talking about the deep ideas. So it's a very high level. When I get to know your program, I'm like, wow, this is the other program that needs to talk about uh, uh, what is the art business about. There's a
Hmm.
space in being a curator, being an administration of creating
Hmm.
exhibitions,
Yes.
the production. So it was like, wow, I was so last year. I think it was last year you invited me to come in and share,
Yes.
and I
Oh yeah.
was
With my students. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So I was so happy then we're able to partner
Definitely.
together because once I met you, I'm like, she's know what I'm about. She's doing the other part and I'm not doing. It's almost
Yeah.
our two
Yeah.
programs
Yeah. I
becomes
mean,
one big one that is the students can go all the way to learn about to create public art and unique
100%. Yeah,
message.
I have the 101, you're like 102, like you're the next step after
Yeah,
like get the
yeah,
base and then if you
yeah.
want to go over into this program. It really is
Yes.
incredible because I think kind of like to think that both of us approached these programs of like what would I have liked to learn when I was at this age. And so and believe me, the Future Art Leaders went through a bunch of different iterations and I was writing all of the syllabus and the agenda and getting folks to support it in sort of like ways. So there was a curator, the artist. Um, we went to galleries in the city. We went to the Met.
Sure.
Like I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
so I'm like the administrator, the coordinator, but I kept thinking, what would I like? What would I like to see? What would I like to do?
Yes.
What program which I
The
wish I had?
exposure,
Because
the
going all the
the
way back where
environment.
like when I was like, I love art, I love doing this,
Yeah.
but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing with this. My high school didn't know what to tell me. This was a program I wish I had. And Kelly and I would have that conversation too. He's like, grew up in this little town in Pennsylvania. I wish he got a great opportunity with the Smithsonian, but he was the same way. If he didn't have that internship, he's like, I don't know like how I would have gotten the direction. And the same way with you, you're like, wow, like I'm sitting at my table, all my siblings have left. I'm here, but you're like, what
Right.
am I doing next? How am I
Right.
taking what I know I have in me and figuring out? Because like me, I'm not saying you're like me, but like me, I was never like I had enough confidence that if I went to the next level, then what was I doing versus like, oh, I still could do my art, which I still do. And coming to Men, it's really given me a lot more push to be an artist versus before. Um, but then I can be really good about working with artists, understanding their what their concerns are, what their needs are,
Right.
how they are, can't always communicate what they're trying to communicate, because usually in our case it's visual, because it's visual art. But really trying to be like helping them get to that next step all
Right.
the time. But I still can be an artist, but there's so much more I could do. I just didn't know it at all,
You just want to be in the art business, right?
Yes, yeah. So,
So
right.
I think this is
hmm
thinking being big picture.
Yes.
When you're an artist, I would say to any student, anybody out there, don't let they put you in a box,
Right. Yes.
because you could
Yes.
work
hmm
being a curator, installation, I don't know, doing a lot of things in the art business. Then it goes from theater to film to
hmm
music to visual arts, partnerships, different productions,
Absolutely.
and it's still making more original or
hmm
singular artworks. And it's all about, I think, being in universal creativity
Yes.
and be able to say
Absolutely.
something,
hmm
either individually or collectively.
Absolutely. And
And
if you're going to any sort of play or Broadway, all those sets, someone's building those sets. My husband works on TV shows. The scenics have to take
exactly.
an exam. They have to not only literally paint a wall, which they will paint a lot of walls, just your basic white, basic blue, whatever, but also then have to paint something so it looks like real wood. The talent that it
Right,
takes to
right.
do that is incredible. And they have to take this whole test to be the scenic. And then most of them have their own artistic practice as well of that. So there's so many ways, or there's people who, again, we'll say with TV shows, that they're the writers that write behind this. They do some sort of
Correct.
job. They do, like, whether it's props or whatever, but they're trying to write their own script. So sometimes it's the adjacency to the creativity. It fuels them,
Right.
and they want to do a great job of what they're doing, because then they can stay around that and stay creative. And
Correct.
for me, a lot of that was continuing to teach, because I felt that the students, so no matter it was actually, let's teach a 10-year-old how to use watercolors, or talking to these high school students about the importance of, right now I'm going to teach you a little bit about, the basics of art business, but what would be really great is all day long, how to, like, put wires, hang art, and the D-rings and this and that, because then you can help
Right.
somebody. That also gives you a talent
Yeah.
that people will pay for,
Not
because an
not
art
just like
handler, an art
yeah,
installer,
yeah,
all of these things,
exactly.
and they don't think of it that way, but these are all the things that they can learn, and then again still have their practice,
And it
um,
still be in the art
still
business.
be around. I mean, there's plenty of artists who are art handlers, art installers. They're doing it in those, blue chip galleries that you're working in these galleries that have, like, major artists coming through, and they get to see the behind the scenes.
Right, right.
Artists love behind the scenes. Like,
Yes.
wow, how is that made? What, really, it's
It is all
exciting.
about it
I'm
is
like
all
totally, like, I love it. I'm like,
yeah,
you can
yeah.
tell, like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so exciting to see things come to life and the creativity behind it. And again, like, I love the logistics of it. And so, but it's just, I'm just so thrilled of where I am. But it did take a while to get here.
Wow. What I wanted to say is, we're talking about how was the dream for you to get to Mana.
hmm
And to me, last year it was my dream
Right,
to
right,
work with you
yeah.
guys, because I knew Mana for years. I have come there. I have Carol Furman is a good
hmm
friend. I visit her many times. So I saw a lot of the evolution of Mana and the potential, but I always want to bring JCY Medley
hmm
program to partner. Last year we were able to do that, and it came up with an amazing uh impactful result. And I want to thank you and Kelly to really put the effort, and we
No,
had
thank
an
you for
incredible
keeping
partnership.
to keeping on. I mean,
Raise the bar.
you went through a
Raise the
lot
bar.
to from
Oh
a lot of
yeah.
different things, but it happened. The kids were great, and the artists that the students got to meet with will still thank me for introducing
Wonderful.
you and the students to them. And that's where I feel like sometimes people forget that, sorry, students sometimes don't realize, is what I should say, that they have an impact on the adults.
Exactly.
And they have no idea. Just like I was saying that, like, when I taught art to kids in my gallery, like, it gave me everything. Like, it was so great, whether we solved a color choice, whether it was me with the student or the team of all these kids together at the table, just seeing them being happy. Sometimes it was a roller coaster ride. They'd be upset that they couldn't figure something out, and I was like, "Oh, please don't cry. There's enough time to
You
cry at
know,
art. Just don't do it. You're good.
you
It's
are
fine."
touching, I think, the most important thing. This is how I know you have a passion for teaching.
Uh-huh.
You just touch the very thing.
Yeah.
I think teaching or mentorship has to do give and take. So you're always learning. I
Yeah.
think we have to have a open mind to know you're always learning in life. It doesn't matter age. It doesn't matter where they come from.
I agree with
There's
you,
always a
Duda.
learning
Always.
possibility. And I love to connect. I try to work a lot of new, younger voices because they always bring in different challenges for me. And, for me to grow, I need to be open to those
Same.
things.
Yeah. Oh,
So it
absolutely.
is always a giving and taking a growth
Totally. And
for both of us,
and
right?
it's always I'm always looking about how people process information and how to be better at that communication. And then when you're having younger students, trying to do that, so then you're learning so many things, it's almost like your brain can't keep up. Like, you're taking in so much. And sometimes I'll look at, like, I'm just trying to teach you how to draw a line, but there's 14 things that you just taught me trying to talk to you. And I really think there's learnings on so many levels, and it's just exciting to watch it also click for them, like, oh, and then you get to see it for you. It was on the larger format canvas, and then to watch it go on the wall. I mean, you must look at that wall not that you go every day, or you might, but just be like, wow, because
Every time I drive by there
it's
is
a
amazing.
huge
I look
accomplishment, and
again, it's like,
congratulations
wow,
to you.
that
I
was a
mean,
great.
yeah, I mean, because
But it's a lot. Kirsten, I believe it's a lot about the environment. People, I was having this conversation the other day. Say, if we're gonna play this film, this documentary to this event, I want it to be in a movie theater. And like, oh, you peak. I'm not picky. It's just the right environment to create the right impact in the
it's
public.
the right impact. Yes,
The
yes,
manner
yes.
is just the right impact to just open their minds. There's so many. The value gave to them, I believe, they haven't digested until today. We heard a little bit in our
Yes.
closing.
Yeah.
By the way, we had so many people come to our closing, they couldn't fit in the movie theater to watch the film.
I mean, it was.
There were people in the hallway that was super successful. The exhibitions you guys put was museum quality. We never had that before. I knew something like that will happen. I was talking to Kristin, director of Culture Affairs, the approach I want to do this year, but I'm like, managers have this museum quality approach. It's not just like an underground exhibition.
Yes.
The bar has been raised, which leads to my last question about
Sure.
education
Yes,
and
yes.
changing, right? What do you think about the impact of technology, AI in the future museums, MANA, and what's happening today?
Yeah, I actually was practicing the answer today over that, because
Oh my
I
God,
get,
that was challenging. I know.
yeah, because
Wow,
I'm
wow.
not gonna lie. I mean, from my everyday, like, when I'm writing something, when I'm writing an email, like, oh, can I wordsmith this better? You stick it into ChatGPT. Oh yeah, that made that better. So there's some of that just on your everyday, like,
Yeah,
as
it helps you
helpful,
put
but
proposals and things,
totally.
research.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
totally.
There's a lot of that, I'm sure, behind the scenes, like, very, whether it's a store or a museum or whatever it is, like, it's making things efficient, and I'll go back to my, like, supply chain days. I'm like, oh, I hope they put something when you're bringing things from 14 different countries to make one object. I hope that the AI helps with that. And coming from, certainly, I want people to still have jobs, and I know, like, there's that sort of there's those sorts of concerns. So when I was thinking about it, I wanted to specifically address kind of in the arts, So as a
Mm.
broad, it's a little bit, so as a
Sure.
broader term, so even whether it's visual performance, a musician, the spoken word. So
Mm.
in that broader terms, I started thinking about what are people's concerns of AI, and so sometimes I think people worry about like, oh, that isn't real, or that copies things too much. And then I started just really thinking about what is again, umbrella artist, what are they influenced by? So I started thinking their surroundings, what's happening in the news, what happened to them in their life, people in general, places. So there's all of this out there. Every day you walk through and there's all sorts of stimuli that's coming at you in your brain. Again, it's processing. I keep looking at I'm presuming this is yours behind you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes I think about, because all these things are connected, all these things. So this is why I think
Yeah.
how like the wiring is in my brain when I think
Yeah.
about things. So I keep going, this is like the perfect example of what happens in here. You're taking all of this in, all of this in, all of this in. So sometimes things come out, and not all, a lot of artists have gone to school or read books, have gone to shows, to museum shows. So they're seeing other artists. So all of this goes into their brain,
Right,
and
right.
then there's output, right? So sometimes
Mm.
you always hear somebody, so I'll kind of go towards like a little bit of like visual art. They go like, oh, I could have made that. Or or my kid could have made that. And I'm always like, could you? Like, just because is your brain wired to kind of think about those things, and then that's the output. And a lot of times you start to see different artists work in the work that you're doing. And so this is kind of like the computer, like that your brain is kind of almost always taking in technology and improving things and doing things better
The
because
metaphor.
you're learning. Like, it's almost like your brain is like a
Mm.
little bit of an AI, because you're going, I'm learning, I'm experiencing, I'm doing this better, I'm doing this better. And I think things can blend, and all of a sudden you're painting, and I'll keep it like super simple. Like, a lot of times you'll see work, and people go, oh, that looks like a Pollock. And there could, well, yes, this person probably was inspired by a Pollock in doing
Right,
that,
right,
but they're
right.
not necessarily trying to make it one. It's just all of a sudden that becomes like their
Right.
technique and bringing in. And so I always think of like, it's just a process. So there is all this AI, but your brain is also just making these creative choices in
Mm.
that. And so when I think about art, it's always been years and years, for how long? Like, there are iterations of things that are happening and things that are coming to life that you can hark back to something else. And the reason why I kept my phone was because I kept thinking about, um, there is a movie, and I'll go back to it, but there was a movie where it was all about, and it was real, it was true, that this artist, I believe he lived in Germany, would buy up all these older paintings and then bake the oil paint off of the paintings. Like, literally had an oven, not a standard one. It was a sort of, and so he would then scrape all of the paint off, and then he would put it to the side, and then he would go and say, sake of the conversation, girl of the pearl earring, and he would remake the girl of the pearl earring and then sell that. Now, he can't sell the girl of the pearl earring, so it'll go, it was probably like a Rothko or something. It was
Mm.
abstract, and that you don't know the breadth of the work that this artist did, and then sell it as a true painting. And so that's the other part where I think when people think about like so this forgery happened for many years before he was caught. And I won't tell you the end of the actual story. It's truly fascinating. And so again, I think about all of these things where what are people concerned about when in that visual art world? Like, they're already happening in different ways
Yeah.
too. But the art is always their own in some ways. So I feel like it's just kind of like
what do
it
you think?
happens. It's going to happen.
I agree with you. Those processes, how people land or copy, however the discussion goes, it has been happening throughout history in many
Mm-hmm.
different ways. But I think that one of the major questions that people, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
interviewing someone that is gonna talk about music. He created a hologram, then does a
Mm-hmm.
music presentation.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna have
Yeah.
in the show today, I think later on. we're gonna be interviewing, and it's interesting because we want to know, I guess, in the future, is the value of the art is still because an artist is making,
Hmm.
or AI or some kind of computer can make something that has the same value when you and I are making.
I think
I think that's one of the very pressing thing,
so.
because if that
Mhm.
happens,
But
our human, I guess,
mhm.
identity not just being diluted, but now we're losing the authenticity of the artist, which
Sure,
has been the mark, right?
absolutely,
You don't want to
absolutely.
have a painting that looks like Picasso, but you want to have the Picasso painting.
But that, yes, I totally know what you're saying, that, you want the artist to still have the originality that
I hear a
the
lot of people
viewer.
talking about
Yeah.
that. That's
No, I
they
definitely
struggle.
understand. I guess where I'm coming from more is that, again, it's it's been happening now. It almost has a name, and it's a computer, not a person who's doing it. So yeah, so indeed,
I agree with you
you
on all
know.
of that.
So, and I also think about too. The name of the artist is escaping me. It begins with an A, and I think his last name is V. But he was in the MoMA. He took, so from his technology, he took images of every single piece of the artwork in
Sure.
the MoMA, and then the technology ran it, and then you would sit. And I sat mesmerized about what the as it like spun through, and sometimes it looked like it was coming out at you and sucking in like it was the ocean, and you're watching this, and it really was based off the images of the collection. And he actually, I think he had they showed his work in the background of something. I think it was the Grammys. um so it suddenly got this broader audience. But I guess it really just depends how it's going to happen no matter what. I think,
Mm.
I feel like, but it's just kind of time and space and everything moving on and changing, and how it's more like how we're going to adapt, I think. it- so that's, I almost think, there's so many things like what is going to, like, what is really original, you know what does that really mean?
Oh, okay.
That's I guess that's where I'm kind of thinking, like, that just, this, there's always like a source, and it goes through these
I always
iterations.
like had a framework for that. You see,
Hmm.
people asking me what I think is original, and you said a lot of things that make sense. I love it. I'm gonna summarize here the way I see it. I think an original is that art. Every artist of his goals and experience everything else.
Hmm.
So what you do as an artist, you start reflecting a bunch of other voices.
Hmm.
And I think you become original when you connect your own source,
Right.
your
Agreed.
own DNA.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm saying all of that. And
Yeah.
then you reflect your soul, and that gets manifested in some artistic
Right. Yes.
representation
Yes.
that it
Yep.
has uniqueness.
Hmm.
And it doesn't mean that it came from nowhere. It came from a lot of sources. But at that moment, marries who you are.
Yes.
Like for instance, the art you see here, the line, I'll give you an example. The line always been part of my work some way, somehow. And throughout the years, I have a long relationship with Amazon in Brazil.
Hmm.
So the line of work is something that works. And you see here my poetic imagery of going on and off and working with the Amazon tribes and so on and so forth. So it takes time. You're right about that. It's a process. It takes time. And one day just appears.
Right.
But
Right.
it didn't appear from nowhere. It appeared for a very long process. So I agree with you. This AI is a tool that helps in many different ways and helps in a way to be more economical about time. It's a
Hmm.
research tool. It helps
Right.
you to
Right.
format a lot of things. And I guess this conversation about authenticity and how it happens is something to be answered, right?
Yeah, it's a really, it's, again, I don't want anyone losing jobs. I'm all about efficiency, and but when I
It's
think,
already happening.
it's art. Well, yeah, it's
It's
already
already
happening for
happening.
yes. And so when I think about this, it's not going to be my thing to put prompts in and come up with artwork. That's not going to be my thing at all. But then I go, I don't know. Maybe there's somewhere I learn to use it, accept it, and then lean into it as it relates to my own artwork. So it could be a tool for me.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I'm more, I do watercolor, ink, I do all printmaking. So I don't know. But again, I didn't know from that way back when of the doors that were going to be open for me, just kind of meandering through. So maybe there will be some other technology that comes up that I might be into that helps
Facilitate your own artwork.
facilitate, you know, something along the way. So maybe it makes it easier for me to repeat something, to do patterns. I don't know, but you know, it's interesting. I mostly observe it and just see where it's going right now. But I really was thinking a lot about it this morning, preparing for this, and just thinking about like, we kind of do this. Like, our brain is this huge computer that's connected in all your senses that you have, or so you're taking in things all the time in that same sort of way, and then you have your output. You know, sometimes people will they'll quote people and they won't even realize they're quoting people, and you're like, said differently, that's a quote from XY. This
Paraphrase.
You know, this author. Did you know that? Did you realize that? They don't. You know, they don't know, because your brain is always thinking and always connecting. So I don't know. So I mean, that's just kind of my take on it. I'm much more of an observer in the whole thing to see where it goes.
Kirsten, I really enjoy talking to you. Thank you so much for being a
Thank
great
you so
partner.
much. This has been wonderful. Thank you very
to
much.
be who you are, to do what you do. I think you have been a force in Jersey City.
Thank you very much.
Through
Same to
your
you. Yeah.
trajectory, through what you do in Mana. I'm looking forward for us to maybe partner this year and a few years to come. I appreciate you came to the show.
No, thank you so much.
To be continued.
To be
Thank you.
continued. Thank you very much. And one last thing,
appreciate
and
it.
I don't know when this is airing, but Sunday, May 17th is our open studio at Mana. It's free and open to all. So we'd love to see people out there and get to know our all our exhibitions, our artists, see what we'll have more to come there. That definitely be to be continued, and we'll share more with once we get things going for
So it's coming up soon.
Yes, May
about
17th.
May 17th.
May
Let's
17th.
all go to Mana. Big celebration, Jersey City.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I will be there. She's gonna be there.
Yeah.
You must be there
Yes,
with us.
yeah,
you know,
we look forward to
be
that.
Continue. Looking
Yes.
forward to.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. It was
Sure,
such a pleasure and
sure.
honor. Thank you.
Thank you guys to watching another great episode of Culture Shift with Kirstin DeAngelis from Mana Contemporary. More to come and to be continued.